Hey, do you prefer to find the joy in life, or do you just want some help with that? If so, you're in the right place. So come on in and join the Joy Bunny clan. This is the My Slice of Life podcast. Welcome to the My Slice of Life podcast. My name is Sharon and I am your very own Highland host. This season of the podcast is all about opening the mystery files, and the mystery we're going to delve into this week is the Voynich Manuscript. So whether you're a regular or this is your first listen, thank you for your company this week. I really appreciate it. And it's always good to have more Joy Bunnies in our little clan. Get yourself a coffee or whatever you like and get comfy for this one. And don't forget, please, to use the links in the description. Any support you can offer is greatly appreciated, whether it's a like, a comment, or you decide to become a patron so you can access the behind the scenes videos. Whatever level of support you can manage really does mean the world to me. And now let's find out what all the fuss is about the Voynich Manuscript. Oh, and I have a theory that I want to run by you. It's on the woo level of theories. It's a bit out there, but I want to tell you about it anyway, so do stay tuned for that, and don't say I didn't warn you. The manuscript is basically an old book, but it's usually described as an illustrated codex. It's been written on vellum, which in this case is actually calf skin, and can I just say, am I the only one who finds that weird and gross? I mean, the book has been carbon dated to early 15th century. The range they give is 1404 to 1438, but most reckon it was written around 1420. They had paper then, so why they needed to use animal skin to write on confused me, so I looked into that a little bit more, and I found out that at that time, paper was indeed available, but important documents tended to be written on vellum, as they would last a lot longer, and it was used by the more elite groups in society for books meant for the upper classes. Really for those books or documents that were seen as more exclusive and luxurious by the snobby ones, or the what-whats as we call them in our house. You know, like in the old black and white films when no matter what happens, they say things like, "I say, what?" Hence, what-whats. That's what we call them. So that might be our first clue about who wrote it and who they wrote it for, as well as telling you what kind of films and accents we do in this house. It's thought it may have been written in Italy during the Italian Renaissance, but the story usually picks up in 1912 when the manuscript was purchased at a Jesuit college in Italy by Wilfrid Michael Voynich, who was a Polish book dealer. So, you're asking, big deal, what's the mystery? Well, to this day, no one has been able to read it. The pages are full of this beautiful writing and illustrations, and many people have tried to decode and decipher it. Some think they may have the odd word or even a few lines worked out, but nobody has been able to say for sure what the book actually says. Now, I love this. Here is where you can really get involved. Since 1969, the Voynich Manuscript has been held in Yale University's Beinecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library. And in 2020, they published the manuscript online in its entirety. So I'm going to put a link in the description so you can go and have a look at the whole book for yourself. In fact, you can even download it like I did to see if you can decipher it. And I know I'm a little bit too excited about it. I have been going through these pages like a crazy person, and as I go into this episode a little more, you'll find out why I've been going through this like a crazy person. And I really do urge you to go and check it out for yourself, because apart from all the theories and academic stuff behind it, it's beautiful to look at. There is something about this book, and I'm hoping you'll agree with me when you see it, because this might sound weird, but it makes my brain itch. The writing, it looks like something we should be able to read and understand, but for some reason we just can't. And the pictures, they look strange and familiar at the same time when you've seen it. And I do hope you'll go and look at it, but Please let me know in the comments if you get the same feeling from it, because I showed it to dearest son, as he's known, and he thought the same thing as me. He's like, I can't read it, but I feel like I should be able to. So let me know what you think about that part. The manuscript is 240 pages long, but there's evidence that it has quite a few pages missing. They reckon it should be at least 270 pages. As for the actual content, the writing, as I mentioned earlier, is a beautiful curly script, and when it was studied, it shows all the characteristics of a real language, such as letters and groups of letters which appear with consistent frequencies, and there are patterns which don't seem random at all. There's a mix of letter style and height. Some letters are unique, while others are apparently seen in other known languages, so I thought that was interesting. Patterns have been noted in the writing by linguists who say there are prefixes and suffixes evident, but to this day, academics haven't even been able to agree on how many letters there are in the alphabet used in the manuscript. And let me tell you, everybody's had a go. I mean, it's been studied by both professional and amateur cryptographers, including American and British code breakers from both World War I and World War II. I want to add here that there have been many claims made by various people over time that they've decoded this bit or that bit. I read one account which said there's one small section at the end of the book that has the most agreement over its decoding, and it said that it's in medieval German with abbreviated Latin to describe a traditional treatment for wounds made out of goat liver. And it does have a little goat image drawn beside it, so make of that what you will. But I also saw there's a group claims to have deciphered 30% of the manuscript, saying it's written in Old Phonetic Turkish. There is a man and his son who have this claim, and they say, yep, we've worked out 30%, but they don't have a lot of backing from the other professionals, and I'm putting air quotes around that, so nobody really has got any of it deciphered. Nothing that you could actually claim means an awful lot. But there are apparently a few words in recognisable Latin, but again, not much. It is believed the manuscript was written by at least 2 different people, going by the change in writing, and illustrated by another person. So it's not all the work of one individual, which I think a lot of people assumed it was at first. The book is divided into 6 sections, and at least that's what the experts have agreed on so far, going by mainly the drawings, I think. And these sections are botany or herbal, astronomy or astrology, take your pick on those ones, biology, cosmology, pharmaceuticals, and recipes. In each section, as well as the writing, there are amazing hand-drawn and painted images of all sorts of things, plants which may or may not be known to us, and I say that because I keep seeing people saying, oh, they're fantasy plants, they're not real ones, they don't exist on this planet. But maybe it's just me, but when I looked at the plants, there were some where I could see it looked to me anyway like a carrot flowering or some sort of cabbage. They were just the wrong colours. Have a look for yourself and see if you can see any plants that you actually recognise. There are also naked women in these drawings, lots of naked women actually, in weird sorts of baths. And again, maybe it's just me and the way my brain works, but to my eye, many of them seem to be in various stages of pregnancy, which I don't see anyone else mentioning anywhere. I mean, if you know different, please let me know. I'm quite happy to be proven wrong on that. I mean, I could be completely wrong and they're not stages of pregnancy at all, it's just the way they draw them, but there seem to be quite rounded bellies on a lot of them. That's how it looks to me anyway, so you can let me know if you think something else. But there are also pictures of stars, moons, and even recognisable astrological signs. There's the fish for Pisces, the bull for Taurus, the archer for Sagittarius, and so on. So, that begs the question then, what is it for? What is this manuscript for? Bearing in mind the book has never been translated, there are a few theories which get pushed more than others. The first theory, it's a hoax. A very well constructed and elaborate hoax, mind you. Some even thought Voynich himself had written it to make money. He wouldn't discuss where he got it from, but it does have a history of who had it before him, including Rudolph II, Holy Emperor and King of Bohemia. I also saw it reported that Voynich thought it was worth a fortune, as he was convinced it was full of some kind of magic. In fact, he put an asking price on it of $100,000 when he tried to sell it. And needless to say, there were no buyers. So if it's not a hoax, what else could it be? Well, there are many who believe it's a cipher, which we just haven't been able to decode yet. Very simple explanation. But another theory is that it is an actual language, just one that was spoken and not written down, which is why we haven't got a clue what it says, as this theory believes that the civilization which would have understood it has since died out, so the language basically has been lost to us. Others believe it's a woman's health manual of sorts. It just needs to be decoded, simply. Like I said, there are a lot of women in the drawings, and there is a page where it looks to me, again, I keep saying this, I could be way off here, but if you look at page 141 on the download, it actually says on it, at the top of it, 77V, image ID number is 1006213 on the slide. Okay, so look at that and tell me that doesn't look like a weird representation of fallopian tubes to you. And maybe I'm just seeing things differently, but that is what I see. Some people think it may have been written by Roger Bacon, who was around in the 1200s, and he was a philosopher, a scientist, basically an all-round very clever guy by all accounts. So there are a lot of people think he might have written it. According to others, there are a lot of theories about this book, as you can imagine. Maybe it's a medical book written again in a lost language. We don't know. But of course, I love this. There are those who think the whole thing was written by aliens as a message to us, which we didn't receive because we obviously can't read it. The bottom line is really nobody knows what it is. Nobody knows who wrote it or why. But I've done a lot of thinking about the Voynich Manuscript, which I would like to share with you. So buckle up, friends. This might get a little weird. The first thing that sprang to my mind when I saw the illustrations was the animations used in the Monty Python TV show. Do you remember them? They were like weird drawings of people, and then a big boot or a stick would come down and stamp on them. You know, that sort of thing. Well, I know it sounds odd, but that's the style that the drawings reminded me of when I first saw them. My brain went, Monty Python animations. I'm not sure what that means, and I'm pretty sure it's not relevant to anything, but I wanted to mention it anyway. And like I said earlier, I do see plants which can be recognised, but just not in a conventional way. It's probably helpful if you have downloaded it to have a look at what I'm talking about here. Go to slide 112. 112. To me, looks like a fern. Slide 108. I see cosmos seed heads. 107 could be a sunflower. On slide 7, could that be a daffodil? I can see plants. Again, they're not drawn in the conventional way and the colours are different. Maybe there was some sort of limitation on what kind of paints they could get, their art supplies. Is it possible that the person who did all the illustrations was just not very good at art? Maybe they just did it to help out their friends. Or maybe whoever did the illustrations was ahead of their time and it is just not art in that, it copies what's in front of them, but it's more representational. I don't know. I'm just asking, but I would love to know if you see what I see on those pages in particular. Now, I did mention I have a theory. Well, it's more of a question, but I want to bring it up anyway. This is assuming it's not a hoax in any way, okay? So what if at one point we could all read it? We've just forgotten how. Have you ever heard, stay with me, have you ever heard the theory that when we're born we remember everything about where we're from, why we're here and so on, and as time goes on, our memory of all that fades? Have you ever heard that one? Years ago, I want to tell you a little story here that might illustrate that a little better. Years ago, I heard a story about a friend of someone that I knew who had a little boy. He was about 2 or 3 years old at the time. And one day, they were sitting together and he looked up at her and said, "I'm glad I chose you to be my mummy." Does that sound like something a kid would just come out with, or is that an actual memory that they have? What if the Voynich Manuscript is something like that, and that is why it looks so familiar, yet so strange at the same time? I did warn you, it was a bit out there, but that's what I've come up with so far. So with all that being said, what do you think it is? Seriously, let me know. Is it a hoax? Is it some forgotten language? Is it a message from aliens? Or is it something completely different? Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comments. And that, Joy Bunny Clan, brings us to the end of the episode. Sorry, that still makes me smile. I really hope you found it interesting and you'll check out the manuscript online so you can see it for yourself. Like I say, I've downloaded it and I keep distracting myself with it when I should be doing other things, if I'm totally honest, because there's something about it just makes my brain itch. So enjoy that manuscript for the next week, and don't forget to join me next week for another mystery, which I may just have my own theory for. Don't say I didn't warn you. But until then, you take care of your wee self.